And one of the guys who has been with you for a while, of course, is Anthony Johnson, who fights Daniel Cormier at UFC 210 in Buffalo next weekend. Before we get to UFC 210, there's a history between these two, obviously. Back in 2015, they fought in May at UFC 187 for the vacant title. And the reason that title was vacant, of course, was because John Jones and everything that was going on with him. You were actually training to fight John Jones. And then a month before that fight, or three and a half weeks, whatever it was, he's arrested. The hit-and-run charge in Albuquerque, that fight falls apart. It's a vacant title. Daniel Cormier steps in. When you look back on that, what stands out? Like, how do you feel about that whole situation in which you were supposed to fight Jones, and then everything happens and turns into this national news story, and then you get a new opponent?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I know it's a big story because it's John Jones, but I felt kind of. I don't know what I didn't really feel a lot about switching opponents, but I loved the idea to fight John Jones because I was 2 times in the corner of a fighter who fought John, like Vitor Belfort and Rashad, and both of them did great in the beginning of the fight, but we lost the fights. And so for me, it was like, finally we get somebody probably that can beat him. Because for me, he's the best fighter pound for pound. They all talk about Anderson Silva and all the other guys, but for me, John Jones is the best pound for pound. He beat the best people on their best, on their prime, and he's undefeated. So for me, he's the best. So to fight somebody like that, I was very excited and it was a challenge, and especially because John Jones also likes to stand up, and so it would be a good match between him and Anthony. And then they changed up, and then we got DC, and DC is a total different opponent, of course. And in 3 weeks, you can't really change a lot, but like I always say to all my fighters, I like to train my fighters just the way we like to train, make them better at what they're doing, their style's better. So whatever happens in the fight and we switch up, we're just ready for whatever, And by that being said, DC is a very, very different fighter than a lot of people. Not only because of his wrestling, a couple of people forget he has also a good stand-up. He trains with a very good team, but he also has very good stand-up. You look at his fights with the bigger guys, heavyweights, he got hit too, and he didn't really move. So I wasn't surprised that he could take AJ's punch, I wasn't surprised about that, but it was a totally different fight. And I remember getting the interview also with you right before that. It was like, it was weird because Vitor was fighting on the same evening. It was a weird evening. It was weird to change the opponents, but now we got the same opponent. We train for it, so hopefully this time it goes the other way,
Yeah, and the fight itself, you mentioned that DC was able to take Johnson's big punch. He might be one of the very, very few guys we've seen take a right hand from AJ and live to tell about it. He gets dropped early, and then the wrestling starts, and it seemed like AJ had his little spurts, but Cormier's wrestling was sort of the story of that first fight. And one thing I wanted to bring up to you specifically, and I don't think you'll mind talking about this because I know you have a very close relationship with AJ. I remember the story of you two sitting on the plane back from Brazil after he fought Vitor Belfort, and he was going to get cut from the UFC because he was missing weight so much, and you guys had a heart-to-heart about that. I always think about that when I think about your relationship with AJ. And one thing that you did do in that fight against Cormier, I went back and rewatched it 10 times, Henry. 10 times in the third round, you yelled the words, "Don't give up." Was Anthony Johnson giving up in the third round of that first fight against Daniel Cormier?
Well, some people that was kind of funny. Some people said, "Oh, you're a great coach, but you cannot tell that to your students." That's because in every training when they scramble and they give that back to somebody, we scream, we talk about it. Don't give up, scramble, keep going, and that's that was the case of don't give up the position, just scramble, don't give up, don't sit there and wait to something's going to happen because he's going to be strong there and he's going to feel that you're getting weaker, So that's why you try to motivate him. Don't give up, and I mean, it was probably I think when he hit DC in the first round, I think like as a fighter, I know myself as a fighter, I won and I lost. So I'm not talking like somebody who won every fight. I wasn't winning every fight, but I won and I lost a lot of fights. And there's moments in the fight where the opponent can smell or feel what's going on with you, and that was happening at that moment because AJ hit him hard. He was a little bit impatient, and again, first fight, a title fight, a big fight. He had him hurt. He thought, I'm going to get him out of there. And probably he gave a little bit much in the first round instead of like when he fought Phil Davis. He was relaxed after the first round, and he just beat him to every position, every point, everywhere he beat him. So he probably went a little bit too crazy in the first round, and he had to survive the second round to get to the second win that you get into a fight. And that was what's happening. Not giving up was not saying that he wanted to quit the fight. I don't think AJ is like that. Otherwise, no, he wasn't coming so far as he is now. But give up positions where your opponent feels he's getting stronger. And probably people think they can break AJ. It was kind of funny. The only guy who beat AJ was DC. The rest, AJ, not everybody else. And right before the Bader fight, his camp, not Ryan Bader, but his camp said, yeah, he's mentally weak, he's going to quit, blah, blah, blah. And you see what happens. A real fighter doesn't quit in the fight by the sense of, I don't want to do this anymore. But you give up a position where somebody else feels he's getting stronger. And that's where it goes wrong, because then you give the guy the confidence. And if you scramble and if you try to get out of there and the third round is over, you go to round 4 and 5 on your feet again. So that was more the case of me trying to make sure that don't give up the position and go and keep going. Don't quit here, And that doesn't mean quitting the fight, because I don't think a guy like AJ, what he went all through with all these weight cuts, with all the problems and everything, he wouldn't even be fighting anymore if he was somebody who quit. We went to very small shows in Kansas City where there was no locker rooms. We went losing weight on the highway together. We did so much stuff. In the Vitor Belfort fight, normally I wouldn't even let my fighter fight, but it was the first time I was in the corner. He couldn't even walk the night before. I don't even understand why the UFC let him fight at that fight, but he fought because there were 30,000 people the next day in the stadium. But he didn't quit. He fought. He tried it. He gave everything the first round, and then he was done,
Yeah.
So, and Anthony's not somebody who quits. That's not the case. So maybe it was a little bit misunderstood, and people get like crazy about it. Oh, you said you don't quit. Yeah. Come on, man, be serious or what?
Yeah, another thing you constantly told him, and these mics are great, man. I don't know how much as a coach you are aware that you are mic'd up the whole time, but I as a fight observer, I go back and listen to these things. I can hear everything you're saying during the whole thing, and you're telling him even during his walkout, you're telling him calm. You want AJ to be calm, and you want him to be calm in the fight. And what is that like, trying to find that balance of a guy who's got so much horsepower, and we see what he does, knocking Glover Teixeira out in 13 seconds. I mean, you want to unleash him, right? I mean, you want him to be unleashed and be an animal and be who he is, but you also know that there's a certain risk in that.
Not everybody goes to sleep after one punch. There's nothing to do with you have a good chin or a bad chin or whatever. Sometimes the punch looks like it's like 100% on target, but sometimes people can take a punch. You have to understand, DC fought at heavyweight. He took everything when Bigfoot was still big and strong. I remember the fight with Josh Barnett. He got hit by good heavyweight guys, and of course there's a different power in AJ's fight punches and kicks because he's very powerful and explosive. But DC is a guy who knows he can take a punch. And again, he trains with Velasquez. He trains with a lot of guys in his gym, so he's known. So instead of hitting him with one punch, you have to hit him with a couple of more, and maybe you have to beat him for 25 minutes. So you need to try to stay calm. But you're totally right. If you have somebody who's so explosive and so strong and so fast, it's very difficult to tame him. It's a beast that you have to tame. But we worked a little bit better on this camp on that, and you saw that in other fights with Jimmy Manuwa. He was more relaxed. He took him down in the first round, just also to show that his wrestling is not so bad,
Yep.
So he's a little bit more relaxed. But yeah, Glover Teixeira just came forward, and there's one thing you don't need to do. You cannot just come forward and think you can stand up and bang with AJ, because then you have a real problem. You can stand with him, but you need to be a little bit more technical way, because if you do that, I see it every week in the gym. Big and small, you go to sleep, Even though don't want to knock you out, you're going to get knocked out,
Last question I'll ask on Anthony, and I know that, you guys are always so focused on what's in front of you, of course, and that's how it should be. But I'll put this out there pretty simple. When you look in your crystal ball, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, whatever it is, when we look back on Anthony Johnson's career, will he have a win over John Jones? How confident are you that Anthony Johnson will retire with a victory over John Jones?
Well, that's very difficult for me to say. I mean, I wish that fight would happen again. I want to say it again, and he knows it probably because I told him that. I think John Jones is really the best fighter, so who don't want to fight that guy? But I think the matchup between Anthony and John Jones would be great. I think it would be great. But this fight's really DC. But again, I hope in 5 years from now we have seen that matchup, and finally I got somebody who beats John Jones, and he has the potential to do it. But again, he's fighting the greatest fighter at MMA, in my opinion, till now. But Anthony has knockout power in his hands, in his legs. He moves good. He's underestimated in wrestling. He's really underestimated in wrestling. So he's not a high level wrestler. But if he can do defense, take down defense, and everything, and if the fight is standing, and you know what, Brett, who doesn't want to see Anthony fight? Everybody wants to see it. Nobody wants to see two people just hanging on to each other. Everybody wants to see knockouts. Everybody gets great feeling when he walks out, because everybody wants to see AJ, because it's like Mike Tyson. Something's going to happen in there. Something's going to happen, and most of the time you need to watch very, very closely, because it can be over so fast and so violent. That everybody wants to see that. So yeah. I look back and hopefully we get one win over him.
Yeah, the only complaint I have about an Anthony Johnson fight is that they're over too quickly. In 2016, we got to see this guy for 1 minute and 39 seconds when you combine the two. That's great for him. Yeah. It's not so great for the people who want to see more of him fight. But when you got that kind of power,
you're right. We did it last sparring session. That was this Tuesday. We did a lot of rounds, but Anthony wanted to do the rounds with everybody in the gym. So with the small guys, the big guys, it was kind of fun. We did 12 rounds of 3 minutes, with just kickboxing and just moving around. And it was more fun, the end of the camp and everything. And then he was like, I can do another 10 next week. So hopefully in 2 weeks from now we can do that also.
We'll get to see all of it.
Light on your feet. Yeah, we're going to see 25 minutes of violence. So that'll be cool.